Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, where I cover vampires, werewolves, and other supernatural creatures. I feel like I say this every time, but this is a series I've wanted to cover for so long. American Horror Story. This time we're going to take a deeper look into the vampires from Season 5, Hotel. This season features a completely different kind of vampirism that's traced back to an ancient virus, and of course features Lady Gaga as the Countess. Let's take a look at the vampires known as the Afflicted, where this vampire virus came from, their biology, abilities, and more. Let's begin with where this vampire virus came from. In order to do that, we need to start with Elizabeth Johnson, also known as the Countess. She was born in America in 1904. Later, in the year 1925, she was following her acting career when she met someone. He was an Italian-American film star, the lead on the film that she was working on. His name was Rudolph Valentino. One day he invited her to his place and she nervously showed up. Inside, Elizabeth is introduced to his wife Natasha, who Elizabeth thought he'd broken up with. Turns out the higher-ups in the movie industry thought it would be better if he was single, so the relationship is now a secret.
The only way we can really be together is if the world thinks we are not.
Elizabeth becomes involved in a relationship with both Valentino and Natasha. Elizabeth is deeply in love, but not long after, Valentino is reported dead. Nothing is said of Natasha. After hearing of Valentino's death, Elizabeth almost threw herself from a window in the Cortez hotel. She was stopped by a man named James Patrick March. She didn't want to be alone, so she went on to marry him. He was a young millionaire who made his fortune early and built the Hotel Cortez. The hotel was completed in 1926 and is secretly a macabre torture chamber that expands most of the hotel. Secret chutes for bodies, hallways with dead ends, and rooms bricked off, secret rooms, all kinds of things that allowed James to commit many horrific murders and not get caught. He did all this for his own sick pleasure. It's said that when he had the building built, he poured every ounce of his evil into it, and that gave the building special properties. Since the Countess married James, that's how she came to live at the hotel. After Valentino's death, Elizabeth would wear all black and bring a rose to his grave every day. It became a kind of urban legend around the area, people talking about the mysterious woman in black that comes to his grave every day. Some even wondered if it was an otherworldly creature. One day, while bringing a rose, Elizabeth is approached by someone. It's Natasha. Elizabeth is upset that she didn't reach out sooner after what happened, but that's when Natasha reveals that Valentino is still alive. Elizabeth cannot believe this, but there he is. He's still alive. But how? Rudolph reveals what actually happened. He was traveling around promoting his new film, Son of the Sheik. The tour would go from San Francisco to New York with press stops along the way. He was traveling by train and he spoke of seeing a strange man. He kept seeing him at each stop, and Rudolph could feel a strange presence that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. The man's gaze was unnaturally alluring compared to the others. During this trip, Valentino thought that he was seeing the man all over the train. He started to believe he was losing his mind. Eventually, the man approached him, and he spoke Italian, but with a thick German accent. The man's name was Frederick Wilhelm Murnau. You might know him better as the director of Nosferatu, the first ever feature-length vampire film released in 1922. Murnau explains that he had uncovered many secrets while making his masterpiece, Nosferatu. He traveled deep into the Carpathian Mountains, possibly because that's where Dracula himself lived in the 1897 Bram Stoker novel. Some have even suggested that Bram Stoker may have been inspired by earlier tales of vampires in the Carpathian Mountains. Transylvania itself is located in the southern Carpathian Mountains. Murnau wanted authenticity, and he found it in the old world. He found creatures like the ones in his movie, but not hideous and monstrous like Max Shriek, rather beautiful beyond compare, infected with an ancient blood virus, which its effect was eternal life, endless youth, but also a terrible thirst. Murnau told this story to explain what he is and the danger. Then he offers the gift to Valentino. Valentino was a silent film actor, and Murnau knew that once talking pictures came around, he would be forgotten. He couldn't save the world, but he could save Valentino and preserve his beauty for all time. That was Murnau's whole goal, to preserve Valentino. That's what he said to him.
I thought he meant to kill me, but instead he wished to preserve me.
The one stipulation was that Valentino had to walk away from the movies, and he agreed. When he returned to New York, the press started to report that he was sick, and he just let them believe it. He knew the news of him being sick would draw Natasha to him. Not long after, his wife came to see him and he shared his gift of immortality with her. Then they faked his death. Turns out he did this by killing one of his stuntmen that looked very similar to him. Rudolph has now returned to offer Elizabeth the gift and run away with them. Little did she know her husband James was listening the whole time, or at least part of the time. The plan was for Elizabeth to meet up with Valentino and his wife and take a train far away. Unfortunately, they never make it to the train station. Instead, James has them kidnapped, placed in the hotel, then had the entire hallway they were in walled off with steel and bricks. Well, we'll come back to them later. After Valentino and his wife didn't show up, Elizabeth assumed that they left her behind, and she went back with James. Elizabeth was well aware of James's killing habits, but she didn't mind. In fact, she actually enjoyed it. James is eventually caught by the police for his dozens and dozens of murders, and instead of going quietly, he takes his own life. It's never exactly spelled out, but this has to be how Elizabeth, aka the Countess, came to own the hotel and live there. It's also not exactly clear when she started referring to herself as the Countess. So the Countess now owns and is living in the Hotel Cortez. James is gone, and so is Valentino. She was turned into a vampire by Valentino before they were taken though, so she's left to figure out her immortality by herself. She builds a life for herself at the Cortez, and that's when we learn pretty much everything we know about vampires. The oldest vampire we see is F.W. Murnau, and he wasn't much older than Valentino. They did say the virus was ancient though. That implies that it's been around for a long time. For all we know, the vampires that turned Murnau could have been hundreds or thousands of years old themselves. The next oldest vampires in the series are Valentino and his wife, then Elizabeth. The three of them were turned in the same year though, so they're basically the same age. Elizabeth was born in 1904, and the show takes place in the modern day. The show was released in 2015, so if that's the date in the show, then Elizabeth would be 111 years old. Murnau was born in 1888, so if he was still alive, he would be 129, so even they're pretty close in age. Throughout her years in the hotel, Elizabeth has turned at least 3 people that we know of, but probably more. Each person she turns becomes her lover, and she doesn't allow her fledglings to create new vampires. Only her.
I was truly free, immortal, no longer just a shadow.
In order to be turned into a vampire, you must drink vampire blood. You cannot be turned by being bitten. When someone drinks vampire blood, they will turn within a matter of seconds. The Countess says, it will feel like you're dying. Maybe you are. You can also turn a recently deceased person into a vampire by giving them blood. The Countess does this to Donovan, who died of an overdose. It seems like as long as they haven't been dead for too long, they can be brought back to life as a vampire using vampire blood. It's not clear if these vampires are truly undead. As far as I could find, they do have a heartbeat and breathe air. However, their body temperature is only 75.5 degrees Fahrenheit, when it should be 98 degrees. So it's possible they are undead. It is just a virus though. A biological virus that also has supernatural properties. The Countess says it's an ancient virus, a blood disorder. There is no cure. The beauty of the virus is that you never age, and you now have a supercharged immune system. When Tristan is turned, he wants to know if a silver bullet or a stake will kill him. And she says, yes, you're only immortal if you're smart. Vampires can eat regular food, but they have to feed on blood in order to survive. Throughout the show, they don't feed constantly. It seems like one body every few days is enough. Vampires should only feed on human blood. After a vampire fed from a dog, he said, I don't feel very good. They can also not drink from dead bodies, similar to the Vampire Chronicles. The blood of a dead person will make them sick and has a different taste. A person dies while being fed on, and the vampire immediately tasted the difference and said it tasted weird. The Countess tells Tristan, never drink from the dead. Avoid the diseased, the feeble, the polluted. Bad blood is like a bad flu, or worse. So drinking enough of this bad blood could kill a vampire. And by polluted, she means people that drink or do drugs. When they feed on someone that is intoxicated, it makes them feel sick. Although vampires are still perfectly capable of doing drugs themselves without any problem. If a vampire doesn't feed for a while, they will become extremely weak and lethargic. This happened to a new vampire who didn't want to drink blood, but eventually had to. Some guests from the hotel will be locked up in these cages and drained of blood. The hotel staff are aware of the Countess and her vampirism. Iris will feed livers and other very healthy but equally disgusting food to the captors so that the blood is as pure as possible. We learn from Liz Taylor that vampires must feed on fresh blood. The Countess has a stash for emergencies, but old blood will only sustain a vampire for a short period of time.
Hours, but you're going to need to feed on fresh blood.
Let's talk about appearance. These vampires may have slightly pale skin, but appear basically like an ordinary human. They are extremely hard to notice and are pretty much undetectable. They appear in photos and mirrors. While the vampire Holden appeared in a photo, it was blurry, but he was there. Then later, Ramona says the reason she's not in movies anymore is because she can't be photographed. So I guess according to Ramona, vampires cannot be photographed. They do appear in mirrors though. You can see the reflection of the Countess right here. After being turned, Tristan is looking at himself in the mirror, surprised that his skin is absolutely perfect. He said some of the drugs he was doing was starting to mess him up a bit, but now, he even says that he has absolutely no pimples, so I guess vampires can't even get those. These vampires feed on blood, but don't have any fangs. This means they have to cut their victim to drink, similar to the vampires from the saga of Darren Shan. Vampires are described as being very beautiful, but this doesn't seem to be an effect of the virus itself. Rather, that vampires seem naturally drawn to very attractive people, so they keep turning other attractive people and so on. Let's take a look at the vampire's abilities. They are at least slightly stronger than humans. However, they do not have what I would call superhuman strength. They can't lift cars or do anything really crazy. They're basically like a really strong human. As for movement speed, it's identical to humans. They can't move super speed or appear like a blur. They do have some mental abilities. The Countess was able to make a man get up and leave a table, like she was compelling him. Also, when her and Donovan were looking for victims, the Countess was able to draw the attention of a specific couple from a distance. F.W. Marneau also did this to Valentino on the train. He said he could feel a presence and the hair standing up on the back of his neck. The Countess never uses these abilities on another vampire, so it's possible you cannot compel another vampire. Valentino was awoken by the shadow of Marneau choking him. Similar to Bram Stoker's Dracula, Marneau can manipulate his shadow to affect the physical world. He is the only person we see using this ability. These vampires do have a healing ability, but it's not very strong. They can heal from most small wounds in an hour or two. Larger wounds will take longer to heal, but still heal much faster than a human. They cannot heal from grievous wounds though, such as being shot in the head, impaled, or something very damaging. Ramona said that broken bones would heal in just a few days. Their sight, hearing, and sense of smell are also heightened. The Countess could hear the heartbeat of Liz Taylor speed up when she was afraid, and she said that she could smell emotion. She described that each emotion had a different smell. Rage smelled like copper. Joy smelled like strawberries. Hate is like ice chips in a martini. Love is rose water. Betrayal has the taste of char on burnt meat. This could be different for each vampire, but either way, they can smell emotions. They can also smell whether or not someone's a vampire. After Iris was secretly turned into a vampire, the Countess and another vampire remarked that she smelled different. They couldn't tell she was a vampire at the time, but they knew something was off. Not much is said about their eyesight, but it can be presumed that they can see better in the dark since they operate almost exclusively at night. That brings us to their weaknesses. Like I said, these vampires operate mostly at night. However, they are not burned by the sun, similar to the original Dracula. The Countess says that the sun will not kill you, but it will sap your vitality. It's not clear exactly what this means, but possibly the vampire would be weaker in sunlight and could cause them to age. Sunlight is very effective in killing viruses. I wonder if by going in the sun, it weakens the ancient virus, which in turn ages you. So vampires are not burned by sunlight, but it will sap their vitality. They're not weak to garlic, silver, crosses, running water, or many of the traditional weaknesses. Just sunlight. Vampires in American Horror Story are pretty easy to kill though. The Countess kills Tristan by slicing his throat with her nail, and that's all it took. Another vampire is also killed with multiple gunshots. I would say their other weakness, aside from the sun, is polluted blood. If they can't find clean blood to feed on, they will become sick and weak. Vampire biology. The vampire biology is very similar to humans, other than they drink blood and their body temperature is 75.5 degrees. As far as I can tell, these vampires have a soul as well. After Tristan is killed, his soul is trapped in the hotel like the others that die there, meaning he must still have a soul. Vampires need to eat, breathe, sleep, and can even have children. At some point, the Countess became pregnant. It's super confusing trying to figure out exactly when she got pregnant, but the baby belongs to James March. She was either impregnated after she was turned into a vampire, or it's possible she was pregnant when she was turned and didn't know. She went to a place to get it taken care of, and when she shows her stomach, it's huge. Then she says she's only 3 weeks pregnant.
3 weeks.
Okay, so vampire babies must mature very fast. Only 3 weeks, but it looks like she's at least 8 months pregnant. Some people think that she may have been lying about how long she was pregnant so the doctor would perform the procedure, but I don't think she was lying. The doctor didn't seem to care either way, and it's also the doctor from season 1 who's completely insane. The doctor removes the baby and it's still alive. In fact, it kills the doctor's assistant. We don't see what happens, but we hear a bunch of growling and animalistic noises. The doctor gives her the baby and says, "It's a boy." She names him Bartholomew. Her son is much different from all other vampires in the series. He lives in the hotel, and it's been around 30 to 40 years. Yet, he's still the size of an infant. Since he is a vampire, he is stuck at that age forever. I guess this is what happens when someone is born a vampire. Although Bartholomew is small, he is still quite strong and capable of killing humans. It seems that although he is the size of an infant, over 30 to 40 years, he has gained at least some intelligence. He doesn't look like a normal human infant either though. His eyes are black, and his face is horribly disfigured with sharp teeth. Considering how Bartholomew turned out, this would explain why in the future, instead of birthing her own children, the Countess would kidnap other children and turn them into vampires. She takes care of multiple vampire children in the hotel. They're all pale with blonde hair, so I guess she likes that look. They have a special room where they can eat candy and play video games. Then they sleep in glass coffins. The Countess says vampires don't need to sleep in coffins as she prefers her designer bed. The children do seem quite happy and are glad to be there. Eventually, one of her children does start to wish she could grow up though, like a Claudia situation. The Countess explains that she finds kids who are being neglected and gives them a better life. And this seems to be at least somewhat true. She cares about all her children, including Bartholomew, more than anything else. When Bartholomew was almost killed, she broke down in tears and rewarded the person who saved him. She seemed very distraught. Later in the season, the Countess is gravely wounded and says she needs blood to heal. But not human blood. Apparently, vampire blood has extra healing properties and was the only thing that could save the Countess at this time. She was shot multiple times, and without the vampire blood, she could die. The only vampires she can drink from at this time though, is her children. She tells Sally, who's helping her, that she would rather die than drink from her own children, but she's forced to do it to save herself. Afterwards, she felt so terrible she wouldn't even talk to Sally. This part kinda confused me, because I swear earlier in the season, they show the children hooked up to a blood drawing machine, then the Countess drinking the blood. Yet later, she says she would rather die than drink their blood. So I don't know what happened there.
Get some juice and cookies.
There's another kind of special blood that provides extra benefits to a vampire, and that's witch's blood. Ramona is weak and needs to regain her strength, and she is told that a witch has checked into the hotel. Ramona goes to her room, and when she tries to attack the witch, all the damage she does is inflicted back onto her. This is some kind of spell cast by the witch. Eventually, Ramona is assisted by James March. The magic doesn't work on him because he's a ghost. Upon drinking the witch's blood, all her wounds healed almost instantly, and she claimed that she felt stronger than normal. Now I want to talk about a unique case that happened when a vampire turned someone with measles. A child was dying from measles, so a vampire turned him in order to save his life. However, it didn't cure him. He was now a vampire that had permanent measles, and he needed to feed on blood constantly to keep the symptoms from flaring up. If he didn't feed, he would start to cough and the red spots would reappear. Also, if he turned another vampire, they would also be afflicted with this mutated measles version of the vampire virus. He turns his entire class of kids, and they have to keep feeding or else they get very sick. This kid also later bit Ramona, who was already a vampire, but she still developed the coughing and red spots. They did seem to disappear after she fed on the witch though.
I got witch's blood in my veins.
Another case of vampirism not curing someone of their affliction was Ramona's dad. He had Alzheimer's, and Ramona turned him, hoping it would cure him, but it didn't. 2 intruders broke into the house, and Ramona's dad was able to kill them both. I think this is pretty good evidence that vampires are stronger than humans. Ramona knew she had to kill him. It was the only humane thing to do. The alternative is he would be forced to live with dementia forever. So if you were turned into a vampire, your body is frozen in time, and this seems to include some ailments, such as measles and dementia. It can improve your skin in some other aspects, but it can't fix everything. Now I would like to return to Rudolph Valentino. If you can remember, I said that him, along with his wife, were trapped in the hotel by James March. Well, they never actually died. Nearly 100 years later, the new owner of the hotel, Will Drake, wanted to do some renovations. He found part of the hotel that had been walled off, so he decides to open it. As soon as the workers cut a hole in the wall, Valentino and his wife Natasha spill out of the entrance and kill the worker. They look like zombies after being trapped all those years. But how did they survive? Well, they did it by feeding on rats. So I guess in a survival situation, a vampire could feed on animal blood. It's just not recommended. I thought they might be stuck like this forever. But after draining several bodies, Valentino and his wife reappear looking as if they were never trapped in the hotel. So if you don't feed for a long time, you'll start to look like a zombie. But if you feed again, it's completely reversible. Also, when they first came out of the wall, their hair was the same as it was when they were captured, and Valentino had no facial hair. This must mean that, like the Vampire Chronicles, they are truly frozen in time at the moment they were turned, including the length of their hair. These vampires, often referred to as the Afflicted, are very interesting, and having F.W. Marneau involved in the story is a really cool idea. Like I said at the beginning of the video, there is vampire-like creatures in the 10th season, some more humanoid and others known as the Flesh Phantoms. I think it would be really cool if eventually the 2 species of vampire could meet. That's my video on the vampires from American Horror Story Hotel. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, where we look at vampires, werewolves, and other supernatural creatures. Today we're going to take a deeper look into the vampires from American Horror Story. This show was created by Ryan Murphy and Brad Falchuk. It first premiered in 2011 and currently has 11 seasons. There are vampires featured in 2 seasons of the show, Season 5 Hotel and Season 10 Double Feature. But they're not the same kind of vampires. Although the series is an anthology series following a new story every season, the creator has confirmed they are connected, so they exist in the same universe. I will explain the difference between both vampires, but I will be primarily focusing on the creatures from Season 10, Red Tide. Season 10 of American Horror Story is named Double Feature because it's split into 2 separate stories. The first half tells the story of Red Tide, and the second half is the story of Death Valley. This season has the returning actor Dennis O'Hare, who played the vampire Russell Edgington in True Blood. This season also features Macaulay Culkin as a male prostitute. Now, let's take a look at the pill that causes vampirism and why it was created. This season begins with the Gardner family traveling together and coming upon a deer with its throat ripped out. We learn that Harry is a writer and has worked in television for a while, but never made his own show. So he's traveled to Provincetown and Cape Cod to write in peace and hopefully finish his first pilot because he's gonna lose his job soon. Harry, his wife Doris, and his daughter Alma have all had weird experiences during the first week in town. While Harry's in the grocery store, the town junkie warns him to get out of town. Later he Googles the town and finds a story about 5 people found dead. While his wife and daughter are walking home, they are chased by a very strange looking man. They report it to the police, but they're not taken very seriously, but they're reassured that they're safe here. Alma ends up seeing that same creepy man along with 2 others stalking their house in the middle of the night, terrifying her. Then to top it off, while on a jog, Harry discovers 2 dead bodies on the beach. Harry is having horrible writer's block and hasn't been able to accomplish anything since he got to town, and after everything that's happened, he understandably wants to leave. That's until he goes to a bar and meets the famous writers Austen Summers and Belle Noire. The local junkie appears again and tells Harry to stay away from all these bloodsuckers. Remember that creepy guy that chased Harry's wife and daughter? He comes back and breaks into the house, attacking Harry. He is wearing strange clothes, he's very pale, bald, and has sharp teeth. Whatever it is also moves and jerks around very unnaturally. Although creepy, he didn't seem to be any stronger than a regular human because Harry did kill him. Harry and Doris decide they should leave town, but Austen ends up inviting Harry to his house, saying, "I have something that will cure your writer's block." Harry cannot resist the offer. When he arrives, Austen offers him the black pill. He asks what it is, but Austen says it doesn't have a name. Harry is hesitant, asking who made them. What's in it? Austen says, "Who cares, they work." At first, Harry refuses, but Austen puts them in his pocket and says, "At least try it." While getting ready to leave town, Harry gets a stressful call from his agent, telling him he needs to finish the pilot ASAP or his career's in big trouble. Frustrated and desperate for inspiration, he takes the mysterious black pill. Him and his family are getting in the car about to leave when suddenly the pill kicks in. Harry is breathing heavily and seeing short visions. His eyes go bloodshot, but suddenly go back to normal, and Harry feels great. He's overcome with inspiration and says he can see the whole story in his head and he needs his laptop right now. He stays up all night and writes an entire pilot. Not just that, it's amazing. His agent is over the moon. For the past couple days, Harry's writing has been going great to say the least, and he has stopped eating for a few days. He goes to the grocery store, and when he sees the meat section, he goes crazy and starts loading up his cart. An employee walks by and says, "Writing going really good all of a sudden?" And Harry responds, "Yes, actually." Clearly, the grocery employee knows what's going on here. Harry takes the meat home, but he doesn't cook it. He starts emptying all the blood from the meat into a cup. Then he ends up blending the raw meat and drinking it. Harry's a little afraid of what's happening to him, so he goes back to Austen Summers. As soon as Harry arrives, he says, "What did you give me? What were in those pills?" Austen calmly says, "No one knows, only the chemist," which I will talk about soon. Austen goes on to say, the pill only works if you have talent. Those things you see haunting around town, they took the pill, but they're just hacks, wannabes, dreamers. If you take the pill and don't have a creative seed in your brain already, the pill destroys you, turns you into a flesh phantom, always thirsty, never satisfied or employed. Harry asks why is he craving blood? We know that he blended the meat, but he also almost attacked Doris after she cut her finger and he saw the blood. What Austen says to Harry is pretty interesting. Metaphorically, maybe something about artists stealing other people's lifeblood to inspire our work. Scientifically, the drug severely depletes our 4 major minerals in our blood. So this town is filled with artists, writers, all taking this drug that makes them extremely creative. But the price is you have to kill. The person that created this drug is the chemist. She literally doesn't have a name, she's just referred to as the chemist. When the chemist moved to town a few years ago, she met Mickey in the bar while he was trying to prostitute himself. After he gets shut down by another patron, she tells him to come back to her place, but she just wants to talk. First, she asks Mickey if he has any talents and tells him about the pill she created. She's a biochemical engineer who graduated from Harvard. She spent the past 9 years working with the US military trying to understand and unlock the creative parts of the brain. They wanted soldiers to think less, but in order to lock up the creative part of the mind, you also need to understand how to unlock it. Through her studies, she found the answer: the occipital lobe. Talented people have denser and more numerous neurons in that area. She developed a drug to target that area and made the neurons fire up to 1,000 times faster and more frequently than normal. She never actually reveals what's in this mysterious drug though. It's kept top secret. She says that only her and the military group that she works for knows that the pill exists. They tested it on primates first, and it worked. But only on some of them. The ones who scored higher on cognitive tests were now capable of complex notes on a keyboard after taking the drug. Very impressive for a primate. As for the ones it didn't work on, they became highly aggressive, bloodthirsty, tore the other apes apart, aka flesh phantoms. The apes would drink the blood of their kills, and when they autopsied the ones before they drank, they noticed a depletion of sodium, potassium, calcium, and magnesium in their blood. She wasn't sure if it would have the same effect on humans, but she quickly finds out it does. The chemist thinks that the drug affects creative and non-creative people differently. She thinks flesh phantoms are created because non-creative people can tolerate their lack of talent until they're confronted with it. Then it drives them mad with jealousy and rage. Whether the person or primate is creative or not, the drug severely depletes the 4 major minerals in the blood. The chemist tries to get Mickey to take the pill, but he's too afraid of the side effects. So she tells him that she will pay him $50 for every person that he gets to come and try the pills. And so it began. If the chemist was working with the military, why would she move to some small town in Cape Cod to hand out her drugs to strangers? Well, I think there's a pretty reasonable explanation for this. Considering the effects the drugs had on primates, chances are the drug would never be approved for human testing. So instead of going the legal route, she moved to Provincetown and started studying the subjects that were willing to take the drug. After the chemist gives people the pills, she often tells them to stay in town a while so she can monitor them and report to her if anything happens. The town residents were just her test subjects.
Want to try one?
Let's talk about the flesh phantoms, or pale people. They definitely look like they're inspired from the famous Nosferatu. The director for Nosferatu actually appears as a vampire in the 5th season. The first person Mickey brought to the chemist was a singer. After he took the pill, he started to become sick. His skin went very pale, and he couldn't eat regular food. It would cause him to throw up. He returns to the chemist and almost all of his hair fell out, so he shaved the rest. He complains that he's never felt withdrawals this bad, and he's cold. The chemist remarks that he must be suffering from some kind of anemia, which is a lack of healthy red blood cells. This might be why the flesh phantoms are so pale. She tells him that she can't give him another pill yet, so he has to wait a few more days. He leaves and goes to a clothing store and says that he needs a coat, but doesn't have any money. The store owner says she can give him a great deal on one of these vintage jackets because no one will buy them. Does this look familiar? These coats became signature for all the pale people. While the man is walking around the cemetery, a woman invites him to pray with her. He ends up spontaneously breaking a bottle and slashing the woman's throat with a menacing look on his face. Then he starts to drink the blood from her neck. He returns to the chemist in shock at what he did. She asks him how much blood did he drink, but he becomes angry and says, "I don't know. She asked me to pray and I killed her." The chemist then asks him if he felt rage. He says, "Yeah, why?" She tells him the blood drinking is from the depletion of minerals in the blood, but the rage is something different. Both talented and untalented have rage, but according to the chemist, they come from different places. She says the rage the flesh phantoms experience is because they realize they are not talented and this makes them angry at everyone. The talented one's rage comes from their arrogance and certainty that they are better than everyone else. The rage of the untalented is much darker, more intense. You hate the world for giving you dreams that were too big. The man tries to attack the chemist when she says this, but she pulls a gun and tells him to never come back. Then she says something very important. 9 out of 10 people that take the pill will end up like you. So that means it's very rare that people are creative enough to actually use the pill. Only 1 in 10. The pale people seem to hang out in the town cemetery for some reason. The man who chased Doris and Alma in episode 1 was hanging around the cemetery. And near the end of the season, when they are looking for the pale people, they find them all in the cemetery. Belle seemed to have some control over the flesh phantoms, or maybe all users did. Karen said that Belle protects her from the others, and by others I'm assuming that she means the flesh phantoms, because Belle uses them to threaten Karen on the beach. But she could have been talking about protecting her from others on the pill. Either way, the pale people were like Belle's posse on the beach, so I guess those on the drug can influence the pale people to some degree. Maybe it's because they are on the drug, or maybe they look up to those who successfully took the pill. Mickey also uses the phantoms to force someone to take the pill. For some reason, flesh phantoms won't attack those who take the pills, but will attack anyone else. They can literally be right about to attack someone, and the second they take the pill, it's like they become invisible. They don't get to feed on humans very often. That's why you see animals with their throats ripped out all over town, like the one that the gardeners seen when they first arrived. From what we get to see in the show, flesh phantoms are never seen eating normal food, and when the first of them tries to drink something in a bar, he instantly throws up, so it seems they can only consume blood. The effects of the pill remind me of the condition porphyria, which I've talked about on the channel before. This condition causes unique symptoms that led to myths about vampires. It doesn't work exactly the same as the pill's side effects, but it basically causes a deficiency of heme in the blood, which carries oxygen to organs. The chemist said this man was suffering from anemia, which is a symptom of porphyria. To combat this affliction, people at one time were prescribed to drink animal blood, very similar to why people drink blood after taking the black pill. Like Austin said, there's no name for it, but they start calling it the muse. The definition of muse is a person or personified force who is the source of inspiration for a creative artist. Pretty good name. So we know what happens when things go wrong. You become a pale person, or flesh phantom. But let's take a look at what happens to a talented person that takes the muse.
We're going out to eat.
When the pill works as intended, the person's creative abilities are increased exponentially and their appearance doesn't change at all. Harry was able to write multiple hit television shows in the short time that he stayed in town. Austin has wrote many award-winning plays, and Belle Noire writes 2 best-selling books per year. In order to achieve this effect, the person must continue to consume the pills when they want to create, but they must also feed on blood. How much blood though? Austin Summers gives us a pretty good answer to this. He says that him and Belle feed once a week and split one human body between them. An average human body has around 5 quarts of blood, so that means they need to consume roughly 2.5 quarts of blood per week, or 2.4 liters. Belle does say she likes to snack in between meals though, so the amount of blood required could vary person to person. Flesh phantoms seem to drink more blood, as this man drained 2 to 3 people in one day. But this could be the rage causing them to kill more than their hunger. Unlike true vampires, these blood drinkers don't have any supernatural abilities. They're basically just normal human beings that drink blood and create art. Except there is one thing. When Belle first took the pill, she ended up killing her husband. When talking to the chemist afterwards, she recalls an important detail. She said that she could smell his blood through his skin. That means they do have at least one enhanced ability: to smell blood. Belle also said she needed to drink the blood or she would die. The depletion of minerals is so much that if they don't drink blood soon after taking the pills, they would actually die. We don't ever see the talented people feeding on animals. Only once to my knowledge when Alma feeds on a rabbit. This means they probably can feed on animals, but human blood probably tastes better, or it provides more benefit. Belle Noire often feeds on babies. She says the taste is sweet, and she often creates her best work after drinking infant blood. Alma says baby's blood is almost as good as the pill itself. She was able to play one of the most difficult violin songs in the world after ingesting some. I'm not sure if infant's blood would contain something that adult blood wouldn't, or if it's a metaphor for how children are often cannibalized for entertainment. Not literally, of course. It's definitely a mystery though why infant blood would have any different effect other than it being a metaphor. While hunting for people to feed on, Belle and Austin often target the undesirables of society, people that nobody will miss. More often than not, they have drugs in their system, and when they feed on someone under the influence, they will feel the effects. It doesn't affect them in any negative way, and Belle and Austin remark that they actually enjoy the feeling and it only lasts about 12 hours. The tattoo artist and clothing store owner in town gave herself sharpened teeth after taking the pill. She explains that she went to dental school for her parents, but she always wanted to be a tattoo artist. She says that trying to feed with normal teeth is very messy and you end up having to kill more people to get a proper feed. But with the sharp teeth, you can cut through flesh like a wild predator. She sharpens all their teeth to points, and then she creates a kind of denture or grill to make them look normal. Flesh phantoms also have sharp teeth, but they probably didn't go to the tattoo artist to get them sharpened. That means that their teeth did this on their own, or it's possible they sharpened them on their own to make feeding easier. When people take the drug, they obviously have to drink blood to survive, but they can also not eat regular food anymore. As soon as Harry starts taking the pill, he stops consuming normal food. Doris confronts him, saying he hasn't eaten in a couple days, but when he tries to eat, it makes him gag and he spits it out. He said it tasted off, like it had gone bad, but Doris assures him that there's nothing wrong with it. So Harry might be physically capable of eating food, but the drug makes it taste awful. However, we do see Austin Summers consuming alcohol at all times, so there is some exceptions.
I need a drink. Gin martini to be specific. You want one? Come on.
A flesh phantom who was turning could not consume alcohol. It made him instantly throw up, but this could have been for another reason. People that are on the pill seem to become more arrogant toward those that are not on the pill. After Harry consumes the muse, he lashes out at his daughter and wife multiple times, which is something he wouldn't normally do. Then, when Alma begins taking the pill, she starts to do the exact same thing, treating her mother like she's inferior, saying things like, "We don't need her anymore."
You won't mind drinking the blood? It's not that bad.
Some people can take the muse, and others can't, but the pill can be taken by someone of any age. Belle Noire is affected by the pills the same way that Alma is. Alma is actually the youngest main character of any season of American Horror Story. The Muse. The black pill. You have to continue taking the pill and drinking blood to gain its benefits. However, you can stop taking the pill. Austin and Belle only take it for the winter. Then they go back to the city for the rest of the year. There doesn't seem to be any kind of withdrawals when you stop taking the drug, except it becomes much harder to be creative. If you stop taking the drug, you won't even be as creative as you were before you took the drug. Like your brain becomes dependent on it. We see Harry wants to stop taking the pills multiple times, but he can't bring himself to do it because without them, he can barely write anything. People become addicted to the success, not the drug. While the talented can stop taking the pill and do not have to feed on blood anymore, the flesh phantoms are not so lucky. The first one turned in about 3 days, and the same with Doris. And they both only took one pill. So for the untalented, just one pill is a one-way street to looking like Count Orlok. Or as Harry says,
lunatic mimes with razor teeth trying to kill us.
the drug must permanently alter the brain chemistry of the pale people, whereas for the talented it's just temporary. Even though the pale people don't continue to take the drug, they still need to feed on blood, which means their blood must still be deficient of minerals even though they gain no real benefit. Worst of both worlds, really. The drug causes the flesh phantoms to become almost completely feral within a few days. We see while Doris is in the process of becoming one, she has symptoms similar to someone with Alzheimer's, barely being able to remember who Harry is. She is very confused and disoriented. They do retain some level of intelligence because at one point someone on the drug convinced them to attack someone else on their behalf. Belle tells Harry there's not many people that take the drug, but there's been more lately. At the end of Red Tide, we see that the chemist brought her drug from Cape Cod to the big city. We see a police officer who is turned into a flesh phantom attack someone, and then we see the whole city in chaos. But the chemist is sitting there in a luxurious mansion. She says next, she will make a pill that will make them live forever. Then they really would be like vampires. I want to briefly talk about the vampires from Season 5 of American Horror Story. These vampires are referred to as the Afflicted. They much more closely resemble a true vampire, supernatural abilities and all. The difference between the Afflicted from Season 5 and the Blood Drinkers from Season 10 are numerous, and pretty obvious if you've watched the show yourself. The Afflicted are victims of an ancient virus that grants immortality and supernatural gifts but requires feeding on blood. The drug created by the chemist is a phenomenon created by science and it has an explanation for its effects on people. It also grants no extraordinary abilities other than enhanced creativity and being able to smell blood through someone's skin. The afflicted have more traditional vampire weaknesses like sunlight and fire, while those taking the drug have none. Since the Chemist and the afflicted exist in the same universe, I wonder if we'll ever see them run into each other. Also, people using the pill can feed on someone under the effects of drugs, but if the afflicted feeds on that same person, it would make them feel weak and suffer other ailment. Although the afflicted are much closer to a vampire you might be familiar with, co-creator Ryan Murphy has said the afflicted are not vampires. He said they are suffering from an ancient blood virus and have no fangs or capes. Harry is a screenwriter in the show, and the actor Finn Wittrock who plays Harry is a screenwriter in real life, which I thought was pretty cool. He also played a afflicted in Season 5 Hotel. The name red tide comes from a natural occurrence. A red tide is something that happens when a certain kind of algae blooms and causes patches of the water to appear red. This can actually be toxic as well. The story of Red Tide was inspired by a terrifying true story, the Cape Cod vampire. He was an American serial killer named Tony Costa who committed his crimes in Provincetown from 1968 to 1969, the same town the show takes place in. He was apparently a charming man who used his allure to murder an unknown amount of women, but it's between 4 to 8. Some of the bodies were discovered and they were horribly mutilated. But not only that, they had bite marks on them. This is what granted him the nickname Cape Cod Vampire. It was the 60s, so Costa took part in a lot of recreational drugs. So you can start to see the similarities between the show and this true American horror story. What are these red lights outside of the homes in Provincetown? The first time we see these lights is in episode 1 when Harry walks to the grocery store. People have pointed out that numerous homes and the bar have red lighting. Maybe it's a way of keeping the flesh phantoms away. Harry is attacked inside his home, but his house didn't have a red light, although I'm not sold on this theory. The red light comes into play in another episode. Belle blackmails Karen to bring her a baby to feed on. When Belle closes the door, the light goes out. So what does this mean? Since she turned the light out after receiving blood to feed on, maybe the red light means the person inside is a user of the pill, or they are hungry and need blood. I think the theory of the lights keeping people safe from the phantoms doesn't make any sense because Belle doesn't need protection. The most plausible answer I've seen is that it's some way to signify that the person that lives there knows about the pills and the flesh phantoms, so it's like being part of a secret club. I like when things are mysterious, but this seems like they forgot what they were going to do with the lights because we never get a definitive answer. I wanted to briefly mention a theory a lot of people had about Red Tide, and it involves Lyme disease. When the Gardner family comes across a dead deer in episode 1, Doris says to be careful near the body because of Lyme disease, and she mentions it again. This led a lot of people to speculate that Doris, or possibly somebody else, would get Lyme disease, and it would make that person immune to the flesh phantoms and those on the muse because they wouldn't be able to feed on the blood. However, this obviously never came to fruition, but to be honest, it probably would have been a better conclusion because a lot of people complained that the ending felt rushed. That's my video on Red Tide and the pill that turns people into vampires. American Horror Story was such a highly requested video that I will probably make a video covering the afflicted from season 5 as well. I'm assuming a lot of people want to see that, but I couldn't resist also covering this take on a vampire story because it was so unique. If you guys would like to see me cover the afflicted, definitely let me know in the comments, and if there's any other movies or TV shows you want me to cover, leave those down in the comments as well. If you enjoyed, leave a like, and hit that subscribe button if you haven't. It helps out a lot, and I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.